We begin this morning with the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. Madam Secretary, good to have you in person. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
The justification President Trump invoked these tariffs under had to do with fentanyl.
That's one of the things we've been asking for, in specific to the Mexican government, is how can we work better together to make sure we not only have the enforcement mission at the border, but south of the border, and make sure we're going after these cartels. You've seen the president name them as terrorist organizations, and Canada just recently is starting to allow us to access some of their criminal background histories that we need in order to know who's coming across our border and what they're bringing. So because of his strong stance on tariffs, we're seeing them wanting to be better partners with us to keep our people safe. And I would say in the conversations that I've had this week with Canadian officials, they were hoping to avoid the tariffs and had a lot of conversations, but not a lot of action. So this is the hope, is that the fact that President Trump has said something and now has enforced consequences, we really are hoping for even better partnerships. We need access to their criminal background system so that we know when someone crosses that northern border, who they are, why they're in our country, and who they may be partnering with. We also need them to work with us on identifying packages, technology investments. Canada has said they will do that. We just want to see them actually do it. In the past, promises have been made by both Mexico and Canada that they didn't follow through on. Their naming of a fentanyl czar in Canada is important. That's great. Now let's see really what happens. President Trump's been strong, and I think that's why you've seen the data going our direction. But boy, every day people in this country are dying of overdoses. And I don't want any more families to have to deal with that tragedy if it can be avoided and we can have a stronger relationship. So they know what they can do to help avoid tariffs in the future and what we're expecting of them. If they do it, we shall see. We all recognize that each one of these leaders has political environments in their home countries as well, but President Trump means business, and he meant it when he ran to be president of the United States again, and since he's taken office, that he will put America first. And every day in this country, we have seen over the last several years violence and unsafe streets and cities, and people lose their children and grandchildren, and he's taking action to make sure that we're cleaning up the mess that Joe Biden left behind, and that we have a much safer country and where Americans can look forward to the future.
You're saying this really is about fentanyl?
It really is about fentanyl. It really is. And I think the president obviously wants a strong economy, obviously wants better trade deals as well. But this is about fentanyl and what we can do to stop the cartels from partnering with Chinese officials, laundering money, and bringing a poison into our country that is specifically designed to kill the next generation. I think a lot of people don't understand the strategy of these enemies of the United States and what they're utilizing. They are bringing this in not just to make money. They're bringing it in here to kill Americans. And it's time that we stand up for the people that live here and make sure that we're stopping this war against our children.
There are 6,000 U.S. military personnel working at the border now. That number could go up to 9,000 by the end of the month.
We'll keep them there until that border is completely secure, and we see all-time record lows of encounters. Our Border Patrol is doing fantastic work, but we're going to keep them there till the whole world gets the message that this isn't Joe Biden's world anymore. This is President Donald Trump's country, where we have a border, where we have laws, and it applies equally to everybody. I think that is what is so refreshing, is that we're not picking and choosing winners and losers anymore. Americans have to live by the law. So do those who come to this country. You have to come here legally or there will be consequences. We've got detention facilities across the country, and there's specific ones that are built specifically for families if they are detained. But remember, everybody has an option. They have an option to be here legally or illegally, and they can self-deport as well. We've set up a system and a website where people who are here illegally right now can register, and they can choose to go home on their own and keep their families united. Well, the kids do have a choice. If they have parents, they make a choice to keep their families together if they want to. Or not. If parents make a decision to leave their children behind, then that's a choice that they made as a family. And we need to remember that when Americans break the law and they have consequences or face a situation, they're separated from their families too. I don't believe we should prioritize people from other countries above Americans. President Biden didn't follow the law. He didn't follow the law in the fact that it's always been equally applied until his administration. And then he made decisions to ignore federal law in how he handled immigration and enforcement within our borders. And so today we're expanding our team at ICE, and we're going to have an acting director in Todd Lyons, who has a long history with Tom Homeland. They have worked together to build on these enforcement operations. So we're also naming a deputy secretary in Madison Sheehan that was going to be another expansion of this team. They've done incredible work cleaning up our communities and making them safer. Adding more people to the team with Todd and with Madison is going to allow us to partner with local law enforcement officials to make sure that we truly are following through on enforcing the law. And if you break our law, then there's going to be consequences.
So you want the number of deportations to tick up?
I do, absolutely. So, but people, remember, they have an option to go home on their own.
Yeah.
We are giving them that opportunity to do that, and we will help facilitate that. And if they don't, and they end up coming into our enforcement opportunities that we have in front of us, they may never get the chance to come back. So people need to remember, if they self-deport, they will have an opportunity to come back to this country legally. There is, yes, a plan to use the facilities at Fort Bliss for detention facilities, but also we need to remember to ask, Congress needs to continue through with funding that this administration has asked for. We clearly have a CR discussion in front of us this week. We have a reconciliation discussion. That reconciliation bill needs to happen. We have just weeks before we are out of the funds to continue the operations that we have. And even everywhere I've been in this country out there, looking at what President Trump has done on immigration and border enforcement, the people that I meet are saying thank you. Thank you for getting these terrorists out of the country. He has deported in just 1 month.
Have you deported
22
terrorists?
known and terrorists on the terrorist watch list are out of this country now. We have almost 700 gang members that have been deported out of the country in just a month. 281 specific TDA members, which we know are the worst of the worst, have been taken out of this country. So everyone that has a story like Laken Riley's family or Jocelyn's family, they're extremely grateful that won't be perpetuated amongst other families in other states.
The FBI is so corrupt. We'll work with any and every agency to stop leaks.
There's leakers all over throughout this government. I think that everybody needs to be, I think these in DHS specifically, these two, were leaking our enforcement operations that we had planned and we're going to conduct in several cities and expose law enforcement to vulnerabilities, to those ops being jeopardized to where their lives would be in danger. So they will be prosecuted and they could face up to 10 years in federal prison because they did that. Anyone who is leaking information outside of how something is planned for the safety of those law enforcement officers needs to be held accountable for that. The authorities that I have under the Department of Homeland Security are broad and extensive, and I plan to use every single one of them to make sure that we're following the law, that we are following the procedures in place to keep people safe, and that we're making sure we're following through on what President Trump has promised, that he's going to make America safe again.
The FBI is so corrupt.